Hey guys, this is week 26 of my series titled 52 Weeks of Reaper. Every week for 52 weeks, I'll be releasing a new video focusing on a key feature in Reaper. So let's jump right in. So for this week, our focus and our topic will be mouse modifiers again. So we are picking up from last week and continuing. This will be part 2. We are halfway through the series, guys. So let's jump right in. So like last week, we have the same arrangement. We have the top track is in Midi form, and we have the bottom track right here is the audio form. It's this Midi track rendered to audio, frozen. So it's the same exact thing. So let's check it out real quick. Okay, so in week 24, we talked about some basic features with media items. And last week, we started diving into the mouse modifiers. So for this week, like I promised, we're gonna tie that all together and get a little bit deeper into the mouse modifiers, dealing with these two basic item types, which is the MIDI item and an audio item. So let's dig a little bit deeper with the whole concept of context. So let's go back by hitting Control P, go to our preferences, and we're gonna come down here once again to mouse modifiers. Like I mentioned last week, the key to mouse modifiers and what makes it so powerful is the fact that you have the context option. So you can change the context, and within that context, you can modify, tweak, and tailor how you want the mouse to react within that context. So some of the context options are very detailed. So we have things like the actual item, what's happening when we get to the edge of the item versus just clicking on the middle. We have top half and we have bottom half. So you can actually designate what's happening separately there. When you double click and go into your MIDI on the piano roll, we have different context situations where you could be dealing with the actual MIDI editing, the piano roll, or the actual MIDI note itself, and also the edge of the MIDI note. All of these are different contexts, and Reaper gives you the option to go in for the context of even the edge of the MIDI note, and then you can dictate how the mouse reacts with those different options. So very full featured. So we're gonna jump into some of those cases, and I'll touch very lightly on a couple of use cases just to give you a little bit more examples on how you can explore these features and just expand how Reaper works for you. Let's first deal with the bottom half scenario. So here on this audio item, if I click on the top half or the bottom half, I'm gonna get the same reaction. I'm gonna get the clip being selected, and I'm gonna get the playhead actually moving to where I click. So based on the grid setting, if I change my grid setting, I can click top half, bottom half, right on the grid. It'll select the actual audio item, and it'll also move the playhead to the grid point that I clicked on. If snapping was off, let's turn that off. I can click anywhere, and the playhead will jump to anywhere that I click. But top half and bottom half reacts the same way. But I can go in and change that behavior. So let's say when I select the bottom half, I just want the clip to be selected, but I want the playhead to remain where I left it. So what we would do is I can just actually click on the bottom half, hit Control P to open back that window, and once again, based on the last context that I clicked on, interacted with, it will be selected here in the context menu. So now we're looking at media item bottom half. So right here, it says default behavior and it says pass through to item click context. So right now we're looking at left click. We have the option for left drag and double click. But right now we're looking at left click. So for the left click behavior that I want to change this. So what's happening is it says pass through, which means the behavior is passing through from the regular item menu. So we switch back to bottom half and we're going to change that from pass through by double clicking here. We're going to go to the select and we're going to go just select. So we select that, hit OK. And now when we hit the bottom half, it'll just select the item, leaving my playhead in the same position. Once again, if I click up the top half, it's not going to select and it's going to move the playhead. So cool feature to have. And of course, there are many other options. Let's look at that. Let me click on the bottom half, Control P, and there are more options to select from as far as what you want to happen on the bottom half. So based on what you want to do, how you want to work, what suits your workflow, you have a lot of options here to say what happens when I click at the bottom half. And there is also the option to open your action list and to add an action or a custom action as your behavior for you left clicking on the bottom half. And of course, you can go in here and also change what happens when you left click drag at the bottom half. And you can also change what happens when you double click the bottom half. So you have a lot of possibilities and you can go in and tweak those to your heart's desire. And just to show you here, if we click on this edge, let's say I do just a little edge drag and bring it back. If I go back to Control P, now it's gonna say media item edge. And then you have a lot of options here to choose from. You can double click. We have nothing assigned here. I can double click over here to see what options are available with the edge of this item. And there are a lot of options that you can choose from. So more options, more flexibility. Okay, now let's look at Midi. So with the Midi, let's double click, open up my piano roll. And in here, we have a lot of flexibility also. So let's say for me, I know I have it set where if I have some notes selected and I hold Control and Shift and I'm hovering over the Midi note itself, I get this option where my cursor changes to this icon, which means I can drag and strum the notes. And this is strumming off the grid with no snapping enabled. So that's actually an option that I set up. I'm not sure, I don't think this is default. I think I did set it up this way. And I'll show you that in a second. So we go to Preferences and under Midi Notes. For the context, this is the Midi Note context. And right here where it says Shift plus Control, and you double click on that option, and here I have it where it says Stretch Notes, and it says Arpeggiate Chordize, and I have it switched to Ignore Snap. So that's the option that I have selected. That's why it's checked off, and that's what that does. So I use this a lot when I am writing chords, and you want to give it that nice human feel. This allows me to strum my chords and dial in how much of a strum, the spacing on the strum. So another thing that I always wanted to do, and I just found out how to do it today, and I'm gonna set it up in this video, is I like to audition my chords sometimes where I can click and hear the chord. And no matter what notes are involved in that chord, I want to hear them. So by default, I know Reaper does it where you can click up here in the ruler area to move your playhead to where the chord is. It's taking into consideration all the notes that are falling right under this cursor. So you're hearing all the notes and you can preview the chord that way. I don't like this because it's a little bit fidgety because I have to always move the playhead, then click. And sometimes I'm flowing rhythmically and too much. I just want to be able to just click anywhere in here and hear it. But by default, when you just click in here, you're just going to be hearing the notes that you're by. So A4, F4, 4, D sharp 4, and so on. But I want to be able to hold some mouse modifiers and click in here quickly and hear the chords being auditioned. So let's set that up real quick. So we're going to hit Control P to get to our mouse modifier menu. We're already on the MIDI piano roll. That's where we want to be context-wise. And we want to change to left drag. So I'm going to use that same modifier keys of Shift Control. Double click in here, it's blank. And down here we have an option to scrub preview MIDI. So I'm going to select that. And now that I have that selected, wherever I click while I'm holding Control and Shift, I'm going to get that full chord. And if you notice, even here, when I'm going through the different sections that has those variation with the top notes, you'll hear the difference because it is playing whatever is under where I click. So we have these 4 notes here, 3 notes here, 4 notes here. You will hear the difference in the chords. It is considering every note that is under the playhead once I click in that spot. So you hear the difference in the voicing. It's considering all the notes. So sometimes I do this when I'm trying to figure out variations in my chord progressions, change up the order of the chord progression. And sometimes I'll come up with a different progression and a different vibe that way. So cool feature to be able to just set that up, and now I hold Control Shift and wherever I click, I get the chord preview. And you get the full voicing based on wherever you click. All right, guys, so 2 quick things I'm gonna talk about to wrap up this video. 2 options that you can use outside of the mouse modifier section to actually enhance the mouse even more is one that I use all the time, where I hold Control, the Windows button, and Alt, and I can roll my mouse wheel up and down to change my grid. So hopefully you can see that, my grid settings changing. Down here, I have this add-on that shows you what my grid setting is at. And I'm just doing that by holding those mouse modifier keys, Control, Alt, and the Windows button, and I just roll my mouse wheel up or down to increase or decrease my grid setting. So let's show you how I set that up really quickly. So this is in the actions menu. So we hit on Windows, we hit Shift ? We get to this screen right here, our actions menu. And under this section, hit the drop down menu and go to Midi editor. Then we're gonna search for a script that you should have. I'll go all the way back to the beginning of the series. I think it might be week 4 or week 5, where we talked about setting up your actions and third-party actions through the repository. Once you set that up, you can just start by typing in the word adjust, and you should see an option that says under script, it'll say MPL adjust MIDI editor grid mouse wheel .lua. You want to select that, go to add, so you can add a keyboard shortcut. And what I did was I held Control, Windows, and Alt and rolled the mouse wheel to designate that as my keystrokes to get that working. And then you confirm all of that, and you will have that option ready to go. It works both here and also in the MIDI editor, same thing. I think you'd have to go into the MIDI editor section and set that up for the MIDI editor in actions, but it's pretty much the same steps. When I am writing MIDI, this is very important for my workflow because I don't want to have to keep going down here and clicking this and selecting this. I actually need to set one up for my swing, straight, triplet settings, but I'll figure that out another day. One last thing that I did to modify my mouse is whenever you're cutting audio, slicing audio, one of the issues that you might run into is you cut your audio and you get clicks and pops, and that's because when you zoom all the way in on the audio file, we have the oscillation, the movement of the waveform. I don't want to get too detailed with this, but basically when you're cutting, when it's either at its valley or its apex and anywhere in between that's not at the 0 value, you definitely will get clicks and pops where you make slices. So if you want to be able to cut at 0 point, there is a script that will assist you in that. So once again, we're going to hit Shift ? to go to the actions menu. Make sure your section is set to main, and in the search area we're going to type in 0. And the option you want to pay attention to is where it says move edit cursor to previous 0 crossing in item. And I have that set for Shift Z. So what happens is I zoom in and I pick the area that I want to cut. Then I hit Shift Z and it's going to move the playhead to the closest 0 crossing. Then I'd hit slice, hit S to slice. It's going to cut the audio at the nearest 0 crossing. If you're having an issue, look into setting up a keyboard shortcut for that option, and it'll just help modify the mouse and the way everything is reacting. So that's it for the video, guys. Some more advanced techniques and options with the mouse modifiers in Reaper. Once again, I'm going to keep saying it. 1, you can always back up and save your settings with exporting that configuration file, your Reaper configuration file. And also, like I always say, Reaper's flexibility can also be a double-edged sword because it can be a bit much and very overwhelming. Don't jump right into Reaper. and start making a bunch of change and edits to all these very detailed, niche, unique things, because you're losing the point of Reaper, which is for you to be creative and very flexible, and it helps your creativity. So learn how to use Reaper first. Develop a workflow with Reaper first. Understand where things are based on what you're doing and what you need to do. Then when you get used to how Reaper works and what's going on, what's available to you, then you can start to tweak and tailor bit by bit, piece by piece, based on your workflow and how you want to work and how you see yourself working. Now that you've developed the workflow and you're like, hey, there's this thing that I keep doing over and over again. Let me set up a keyboard shortcut. Let me modify the mouse to make this interact more the way I want it to. But don't just jump in right away and do that. It can be overwhelming. It is a lot. There's a lot to Reaper. Very flexible, very detailed, very customizable. But you can waste hours and days just researching and tweaking and fixing, and it can just pull you away from actually creating, and you get nothing done. So that's my wrap up and my final thoughts on that amazing feature. Definitely. We are halfway through the series. We got 26 more weeks to go. I'm having fun. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video. Check back next week for my next installment of the series, 52 Weeks of Reaper. Thanks for watching, and as always, you will see me in the next video.